So we have the rose barley engine turning done there, and now what we have to do is apply the basket weave pattern to the centre of the dial. And the pattern, the basket weave is basically, you can just draw here, we have a series of lines which spread across the dial, and this creates the basket weave effect. Now to do that, we take individual cuts up the dial in a diagonal line. So really the cutter path is like this. Now at the end of each cut we have to make two alterations, one to the cross slide and then one to the actual rack and pinion itself. And so then the next cut will come along this line, up here, along there, along there. And then we reset it again, and then the next and then again to the top, back to the bottom, and for the final cut. Like so. And then when we get to the top here, then we reverse all of the directions of every single adjustment. And so basically, now it takes quite a bit to get my head around this, but basically what then happens is we get a cut like this. And then after the next adjustments, adjust again, and then again we reverse the direction and start to create the pattern in this direction. And as you can see, we're now forming the basket weave type of pattern. And it's quite complicated, in fact it is very complicated, but you'll see more when we're on the engine. So here we are now in front of the straight line engine. This again was made in about the 1820s. George has used this to engine turn all his dials and cases and so on. As the name suggests, a straight line engine, it will produce any straight line pattern, basically any vertical pattern. And what we have here is a head which is fixed in this slide, and if I turn the handle, the head moves up and down. So the workpiece is held in here, and on this tool here, similar to the Rose engine, we have a sliding head and the cutter is in there. Now to produce the patterns, what we have are racks and touch pieces. And in here we have the rack and the touch piece, and basically that's a serrated piece of metal. And we have the head here which is sprung against the rack here. And so now I have engaged the rack and touch piece here. When I move the head up and down, you can see the workpiece move in and out as it lifts, as it's raised and lowered. Like so. So the pattern that we're creating here is the basket weave, and it's a very, very difficult pattern to create. Basically, there are three movements. For every single cut, we have to move this top wheel here, and then we have to index over the cross slide. And in here we have a rack which has got a pitch of 36, and so therefore we move all of these by divisions of 36. So for example, divisions of 12, we want 3 stripes, so we want 3 lots of 12. Likewise on the cross slide, this is moved in increments of 12. Now what we have to do, because we're wanting 3 lines in the same direction, after every third cut, then what we do is we reverse the direction of this wheel. So we move it now anti-clockwise, and move it in divisions of 12 for 3 cuts, and then at the end of that session we'll then reverse their direction, like that, in the clockwise direction. And again, always remembering to index the cross slide. Now it sounds very straightforward, but I can assure you it isn't a straightforward machine to use, partly because of the complexity. And when you're so absorbed and focused in the actual engine turning, the pattern that you're creating, it's often very difficult to remember whether with this wheel, whether you were turning clockwise or anti-clockwise. And this machine took me a long time, months and months of practice, in order to just get the routine and the rhythm of operating the machine into my, if you like, subconscious, so that now when I sit down in front of it, I automatically know whether this wheel has to be turned clockwise or anti-clockwise, and obviously remembering to index this at every single point. So the only way to learn to use a machine like this is really repetition, hours and hours and hours of repetition. But anyway, we'll put it into practice now and show you how we generate the basket weave pattern.